Nope, not one of those. It's another one for Steven's collection. Welcome back, troglodytes, to your daily dose of guitar information, the Trogly's Guitar Show. If you don't remember Steven, that's the Garrison lover. He's just scouring the world for all the unique Garrison models because he lives in the town that these things were made before Gibson bought out the company and then eventually got shut down. So today we're checking out one that has this really huge L-shaped cutaway over here, so that's a little bit different. I'm not sure what tuning that is off the top of my head, but that's beautiful sounding. But I'm definitely noticing a few unique things about this thing straight out of the case. So yeah, you've got the Garrison sound rosette. It looks like the same one as last time. That I'm not really sure what they were going for, but hey, it's unique wooden inlays. But this one has natural wooden binding. And at first I was like, is that just the top exposed? But no, you can also see it on the back. Kind of reminds me of a rosewood Telecaster because they blend a little bit of maple with their rosewood. And check out our heel stack on this one. It's got such cool wood grain. It reminds me of zebra wood or something. That just happens to be a cool blending of stuff. And then our neck actually has some decent flame figuring to it if you get it in the right light. But even outside the right lighting situation, there's just so much cool grain on it in general. It's very candy cane striped up here. But if we're being honest, the finish quality on this one's actually pretty terrible. I mean, what is all this garbage in the finish? Well, apparently there's actually a cool history behind this one. It's not a regular production model. Like, it might be a GGC-50 CE, however, this one's got a bit more to the tale. But for that, we have an interview with John, the guy Steven purchased this from.
I had several Garrison guitars. I used to be the Harman rep for the state of Virginia. I know a lot of folks in the same type of business, manufacturers, reps. He was working for a couple of different musical instrument companies as a captured rep. And when he passed, his wife reached out to me and said, hey, there's a few things here that I know you might be interested in, some amps and guitars. So I had grabbed the Garrisons, and I had sold a couple of them. And I had held on to that one. People were trying to lowball me on it. And I was like, I'm going to keep this one because it's kind of a rare bird. And it just has such a cool history. That's the story that comes with that one. Like I said, it was a rep sample, and then it lived in its case, barely ever got played. By the time I got it, I just used it in the recording studio. I never went out with it to perform with it. I don't do much acoustic work as a player, but I did do some recording with it, and it's a pretty neat guitar.
I conducted that interview before he had shipped it out, but now that I have it in person, I understand why he said, you know what, maybe I should keep this one, because I love that natural wooden binding, because I didn't even tell you it's also that way on the neck. And sure enough, headstock too. For anybody wondering the tuning, it's DADGAD, but the G is a half step lower at F sharp. Takes a bit to get used to, but I think that sounds really good. This has got a super mellow tone. I can tell these strings are a little bit older. But hey, you know what? To break up this episode, let's do the acoustic test now, because I love this tuning. But to learn more about this rep sample Garrison, let's go ahead and throw it onto the workbench to take an individual look at its parts and specs. The first thing I did was condition our fretboard and bridge. That's looking much nicer. And he requested that I put these Ernie Ball Everlast strings on there. So if you're curious what we're demoing it with after that one that we just did, there you go. That's not sponsored by Ernie Ball or anything like that. That's just what he prefers and asked me to purchase. But here we can see our rosette. And I actually was able to find a slightly more official looking spec sheet. Apparently this is a rosewood and maple rosette, whereas we have a solid Sitka spruce top on this one. It's got some nice movement to it. But let's go ahead and dive in here. Start over here with our sound hole sticker. We can see the model number a little bit more clearly here. It's the GGC-50 CE EADGBE. I think that serial number reads as 2007, but that's the Garrison Grand Concert Model 50 CE, standing for Cutaway Electric. Not sure about HGBBN, but there you can see handcrafted in Canada, made in St. John's, Newfoundland, Canada. Just like the other Garrisons, this one is also a bolt-on neck construction, and you've got the real wooden kerfing and bracing along the side that you'll see when you're looking inside the sound hole. They transitioned away from that full exoskeleton, likely due to people being turned off by it. Because most people just looking in, they wouldn't even know there was anything like this on the soundboard. But down here, you can see where they sank the strap button as well as our output jack, because just like that last one, we do have electronics in here. It looks like all of our wire management is intact, but over here is where our battery is. And we'll take a look at the rest of these controls here in a minute. But this was rather interesting. We've got some sort of a glue residue. And had I not seen that, I wouldn't have even noticed the crack on the side of this one, but we'll look at that a little bit more later, but keep that in mind. That's why endoscope tests are very, very important on acoustic guitars, and you have to have a high quality enough one to actually be able to see repairs like that. But if you buy enough guitars, it pays for itself, even if you catch that just on one guitar. But if anybody has suggestions on one that has like a larger, I think it's called focal distance or something, this upward cam, I can't even see anything on a deep acoustic body like this, so it's a little bit harder to look for repairs like that. But I would say things look pretty good. Moving on to our pickguard, it's a dark red color, tortoiseshell-like. Our bridge pins appear to be some sort of a plastic material, but we've got some abalone toppers to them. The bridge itself is supposed to be solid ebony. And then hey, a saddle finally actually came out of one of these Garrisons. So that looks like so if you remove it. However, I think this is that buzz fighting system that they're talking about, because I was doing some research and apparently those nuts extend over the edge. So I think that's what they're doing with the B string here. I could be wrong on that, but that's the only thing that looks like that to me on this guitar. There's one commenter thinking that maybe the nut was replaced on that last one, but this looks exactly the same to me. So maybe it refers to the saddle, I'm not sure. But now we can see that part of our piezo system, which is a Fishman product known as the Prefix Pro. This should be very similar to what we demoed last time with the brilliant treble, mids, and bass, as well as our phase, notch, and volume settings. And according to the specs that I found online, this actually is rosewood this time, not just some rosewood looking thing. It's always tricky when talking about acoustics because it's like they use a lot of exotic woods. I know Cocobolo can look very similar sometimes, so I'm always hesitant to call anything. And again, this was a dealer rep sample, so maybe it was slightly different. But I found this kind of cool. It's a very boxy design right here. They leave the body at a sharp edge and carve away the heel, but that does look like maple binding here. And in photos, honestly, it doesn't really do much for this guitar because it just looks like regular binding. But the brilliance of it comes in person when you can see the wood slightly dance at varying angles. But it's important to note that the body is actually a gloss finish, so it's nice and shiny, whereas the neck is more of a matte satin. So that makes the binding look different on the neck as compared to over here where the clear coat has maybe yellow just a tad. But did you see the crack over here? I certainly did not. But sure enough, get it in the light just right. You can see a small ripple right there. And I probably just would have thought that was like some sort of a finish check or anomaly with their UV finish. But after what I saw inside there, somebody definitely seeped a little bit of glue into that. So I can't remember. Are we 0 for 3 not having a cracked Garrison? It's just kind of part of them, I guess. He doesn't seem to be too bothered by it. Now moving up our fretboard, we can see once again abalone inlays. That's what they like to use on these Garrisons. So far anyway, from what we've documented. Now this looks like some sort of a dyed rosewood to me. and maybe not the highest quality of rosewood ever, because it's got a lot of porous wood grain. Kind of reminds me of what you would see on a slightly cheaper import guitar. Like, it's not terrible by any means. It definitely cleaned up nicely. I kind of like the way that the frets run over top of the wooden binding. That's a really cool effect. I measure a 25.5-inch scale length with what looks to be a 12-inch fretboard radius. Our bone nut is about 1.72, increasing to 219 by the 12th. We'll take it up here by the 9th as well, where it's 2.05, 0.88 first fret necta, and 0.88 by the 9th. I had to double check those measurements because it's like, wow, that is a super uniform neck. It hardly changes at all. There's a look at that neck profile at the 1st and 12th fret. Despite measuring the same, you can tell that the shape changes quite significantly by getting wider at the 12th, but still maintains that nice C shape. As far as body dimensions, I measured the upper bout to be about 11.25, with the lower bout being 16 inches, with the complete length of the body being 20 inches, and then the thickness is about 3.5 inches. But something else about our heel stack here, this was really cool attention to detail. You can see they started down here and they're like, well, I've got a striped piece right here. And they did their best to line that up with the second one, and I bet they were really proud of themselves for that. But then up here, it's like, so close, but they didn't just quite line up. That still gives you an interesting marble swirl. As far as our head cap on this one, doesn't appear to be an exotic wood this time. It's just a black veneer with the Garrison branding up top. And you can see the mahogany again, and the style of truss rod they used in these. But now on to the back. So what on earth is happening to this thing? It looks like the finish is bubbling up, like it could potentially chip. So maybe it wasn't like this all the time, but generally speaking, from what we've documented, these Garrison UV finishes are kind of issues prone. However, the guitars, I actually do like them. They've got an interesting history and story, and they sound pretty good. This one was very mellow with that old set of strings, so we'll have to see how the new ones sound. But yeah, that's a little bit of an eyesore, and hopefully it doesn't cause them too much trouble in the future. Looks like we've got some dings / delaminations up here. Back to our heel stack area. They actually do have a heel cap on top of our block. You can see the finish was either dinged or slightly lifting there too. Very cool to see flamed figuring in what I'm assuming is a mahogany neck. You don't find that too often. But it is out there, never say never. Then we've got the joining of the headstock to the neck itself, and our Garrison branded tuners, and that buzz fightin' tuning system thing I was talking about earlier. I don't think I blacklit the other Garrisons, but I figure, might as well. Looks like maybe a stand mark or something right there. There's also a little bit of finish wear right here. But outside of that, the neck is looking okay. You can kind of see those lifting areas I was talking about earlier. And surprisingly, our UV finish glows under UV light. Yeah, what a novel idea, eh? Oh, that's kind of fun. It's a very unique uniform glow. Headstock's looking cool too, but the main reason I wanted to do this was to check the side with the crack. So it might have just been starting to form and they caught it before it really destroyed the finish, because it's right there and you don't necessarily even see it. It looks like some more unevenness in the finish down here. Could be a stand, might not be, hard to say for sure. Now I've got it all strung back up. It's a lot louder now. However, I'm noticing the neck is not at the proper angle. That's nearly impossible to show on camera, but you can just vaguely see how it slopes down a little bit too extreme. So that takes your really nice good low action for your chords, and as you get up to your cutaway area, it just makes it very high. It's not unplayable by any means, but thankfully this isn't a set neck. I've never actually taken a neck off of a Garrison because I don't have the right tool, but maybe that could be shimmed. Because your other option would be to file down your bridge and saddle, but it would just be so low. So maybe a little bit of advanced setup work could be needed on this. So I think that's the reason why he had this in that modified DADGAD tuning, because when you don't have it strung up to full pitch, the strings are easier to press down, and it does make it quite a comfy guitar. Maybe Steven will choose just to set it up like John had it. But all said and done, this Garrison weighs 4 pounds, 14.4 ounces. Let's go ahead and hear it acoustic again with the new strings, and then we'll plug it in and toy around with these settings. So there we go, a new Garrison for our documentation log for Steven. He's scouring the world for unique Garrisons, so I guess if you have anything, feel free to reach out. I can forward it to him. But I think he said he's done buying for a little bit. He needs to save up some. But overall, I would say this particular system seemed to be a little bit nicer than the last time. It's either that or I just figured out how to use it. Whereas this is your middle position and then you can boost and cut from there. I think I kind of messed that up last demo, but this seemed to be fairly expressive. But hopefully that gave you an idea of what this piezo system can do. The one thing I'll remember from this one is that really cool neck block stack right here and the wooden binding, because that just really sells this one. But those weird bubbles in the back of the finish will also stand proud in my mind too. But I hope you enjoy your new guitar, Steven. Thank you for utilizing my forwarding service. If you're watching this show and you're like, hey, I need a guitar from the USA and the seller won't ship to my country, that's what my forwarding service is best used for. Sometimes it can work the other way, but I don't have connections in all countries, so all you can do is ask. But I enjoy documenting these guitars that other people are passionate about. So Troglodytes, I hope you enjoyed, learned something new, and saw a cool guitar, and we'll catch you tomorrow on the next one. Take care.